Hey, everybody. Just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching this live, you're catching the replay, this is YouTube. Uh, However it shakes out for you, just wanted to thank you for your attention today, whenever you're watching this. Thank you for tuning in, for catching this. Some exciting things taking place this week. We were hopeful that this would be the week of launch. That was the idea, but travel plans and schedule. And I'm like, you guys said by May 1st, and that's tomorrow. So as far as that goes, we are so close. And to me, it marks a monumental beginning to something that's exciting. And I've been reminiscing of different times. And this week, there was a powerful truth that I had that I was like, this is entirely relevant. And I've been excited for Sunday to share this with you, but I wanted to approach it in an interesting way. So I'll just dive in. Um, it's about having a long-term mindset. If you stop and you think about a long-term mindset, like when I looked internally at the decision of doing this, I said to myself, man, this is like a 5-year commitment for me. I'm going to consistently engage for 5 years. That's a personal commitment that I have. This is the conversation internally I've had with my wife, I've had with my children, where it's like, we're going to make a 5-year sacrifice and we're going to do what we've never done before in our entire life. And we're going to do it. It's like a horse that's getting ready to run their race and they don't see what's next to them. They're just going for it. And it's funny because this is a duplication business. It's not like I could just do the whole thing myself. This is a duplication business. But I get to where I'm like, these are simple things that combined will create duplication. And we've gone on a 6 to 7 month journey at this point to present day, seeing this works, that doesn't work, field test this, that. We have the general idea of a system, and it's like we're like right there in the stalls, ready to go. I have mailed out so many samples. I've had so many preemptive text conversations. I've planted seeds over the last while, ready to bring in a new batch of people as things are ready to test that model. Everywhere I go, I'm talking to somebody, I'm chatting, I'm dropping it in conversation, I'm engaging more people consciously to see who it is. But I have this viewpoint because I think of two things. Number one, I remember the first time I quit my job because of an income like this. I was making 2 times what I made at my job, and it was residual, and it didn't make sense to go to work anymore because it was getting in the way of a meeting I'd have to do, or a house meeting, and they wouldn't let me get off of work to go, or there was a trip. And so I just quit because I was like, it's no more. That was, oh gosh, I was 22. That was a long time ago, almost 20 years, almost 20. No, it couldn't be that much. I'm 38 this year. So however long that is, I have not worked since then. I've had some a non-traditional type of income from that point on, and I'll continue that forward. But I remember this scary moment where somebody asked me, hey, if you quit, who in your group would stay and build if you left? And I thought about it and I was like, honestly, nobody. I was like the only one that would show up to meetings. I was the only one that would show up on calls. I was the only one that would go to the convention. And yet I was making enough income to quit my job. That was reality. That was the reality. And then a rack of people got in, and I got my first couple people that I thought would stay if I left. And it was like a couple years into the deal when that happened. And so it's like I watch people make it 2 3 months, 2 3 weeks in this, and they waver. There's these belief ups and these belief downs, the ridges and the valleys, because you're excited that this guy that you know that knows everybody will love this, and you go talk to him and he's like, you're an idiot, like a full-blown idiot. I can't believe they got you in one of those things. What is wrong with you? Didn't you go to school? I thought you knew more than this. And you're like, instantly devastated. Like, I'm not talking to anybody anymore. You hurt my feelings. I'm taking my toys and I'm going home. Like, and it takes 2 or 3 of those, you're out of the business. Like, I mourn the loss of so many people's dreams because of 1 or 2 people that hurt their feelings. Like, that's so sad. There's haters, there's quitters. Man, how sad is that? A guy gets in your business, he talks a big game. all talk. He's going to do so much stuff. And then what happens? 2-3 months, he's in the next hottest thing. He's in the next thing and the next thing. And then he's talking to your people and you want to get all sad and be like, man, this is never going to work if it's like that. There's all these versions of that take place that like try to rob us of our belief. Quitters, haters, things like that. But when I get into something like that, it never rocks the beginning because the decision was, well, I'll be here for like 5 years. And the comfort for me is, so I've had the privilege of being able to meet a lot of these guys who make 7-8 figures in this type of model. And I don't know much, so I'm not trying to talk about me. I want to know what they did. I want to know how they got there. And it's really funny when you ask them, the one guy, he says, I honestly, he's like, I just pray right before. He's like, I get down on my knees. He's like, I'm no better than anybody else. He's like, I need help. So he asks for leaders. Another person says, man, I pray and I fast. Another person says, I just will it, man. He's like, I could just see 100,000 people in a convention and half of them are mine. He's like, I don't know how they're going to come. He's like, I just know they will. And all these great networkers are like, yeah, the people will show up. When you talk to Dan Putnam, and he's done this over and over again for 30 years, it's the same immovable resolve that comes from that one statement. It's like, I guess I just will it. I don't know how I'll do $200-300 million in sales, but I just know that the right people will present. It only takes one or two. And that's the common theme I hear from all these people. It only takes one or two. And it's funny because it's like, we always say, find the right three. It's like, yeah, I put in 3 people. I put in 3 and 3 quit. I've got 3 more. I found a good one. I put in 3 more. It was like, okay, one. I found 3, got a customer. I'll keep going because I'm personally looking for the right 3. It takes me 5 years to find the right 3. I'll do it. That's the goal, distilled down, to find the right 3. And if you know the end before you ever get started, then you just know it's another day of walking the path. Because if in the end it's going to happen, this is the comfort, this is the truth, this is like the final thought that I wanted to deliver all week long. It's this: every one of those people I asked, the majority of the big volume, the big builders, the big sales that took it from 300 a month to 300,000 a month, the big money, it was never someone they knew when they got started and made the 5-year decision. It was always somebody that happened through somebody, and then this person joins. And that's when they could answer the question that, hey, if you quit, would they stay and build? It was never something that I had control over, but it happened during the journey. And that would be the most comforting thought there, because you could make however much money you want here. You could have however much time you want. You could create whatever kind of legacy. You could serve. I know in talking with Dan and some of the inner conversations, one of the things he's very passionate about, but we're early, is some kind of cause that we give a large percentage to, and we give our time and service to help better something. In his other companies, whenever they have a leadership retreat, the first thing they do is they go like paint a school or feed a village or redo something. Like, they add value. He's like, I wonder what the cause will be for Against All Odds. And I wonder who the people will be that will step up and help run that arm of this. And so as things go, I'm like, I just wanted to talk tonight about that thought, because the reality is the ones that build are never people we know in the beginning. So when we have our expectations super high of what this person's going to do or that person's going to do, and then the high causes us to fall, and then or we think this person's opinion matters, and in the end, you know that they're probably not coming with, or people hate on you or hurt your feelings or any of these things that take place. It's like, well, did you have the long-term mindset and make the internal commitment that you would be here even if everybody else wasn't? You guys on tonight's call are those people. You absolutely are those people. You guys watching the replay of this are absolutely those people. What is your commitment long-term? Finding the right 3, that's the goal. I'm going to pass it to Peyton now.
Yeah, it's super good. Let's make sure hold on a second here. We're good? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't muted or anything. But yeah, I love what you're talking about, because you really think about success, right? And I think that it's interesting if you look at, like, we've been doing a business like this since basically 2008, so our entire adult life, which is like 15 years now. And In that time frame over the last 15 years, as social media has gotten really big, and also as there are like what I call the new generation of entrepreneurial influencers, people like Gary Vee and Alex Ramosi and all these different people who, if you're watching YouTube at all, if you're watching Instagram at all, like they're everywhere, and they're using a lot of the same vernacular or wordage that we used to use in network marketing always. So basically, it's like in home-based business, the idea was always like you have to have a why that makes you cry. You have to have a why that's so strong. And then that kind of got adopted into traditional business. And for sure, when you look at people who are having above average results, everybody has figured out how to motivate themselves, right? And that's true of people that are in mortgage and real estate, and it's true of people that are in construction and home building, and people that run their own small business, their own big business, and corporate executives, and it exists everywhere. So I don't think the question really so much is what is your why? Of course, you have to have a dream, like we've talked about in other calls before. You have to have a durable dream, but you also have to have what I want to call a why this. And that's a really, really important thing, because I think that there's a clip that I'm watching earlier today, and it talks about how basically if poverty and health could be fixed externally, then every single person nationwide and worldwide, it would already have been fixed, because there have already been billion-dollar contributions made from billionaires. There have already been multi tens of billions of dollars of nonprofits. There have already been all types of treatments that, if we're talking about people's health externally. And if you look at it, if you look at somebody who ultimately can win in their life, right? Somebody who is winning in their life. And let's at least for this call describe winning in their life as, in a place in their health where they're feeling really vibrant, they're feeling healthy, they're feeling like they can move, they can do the things that they want, they have the levels of energy that they want, they're feeling good in their body, right? And then financially, it's that they're independent, right? If somebody's financially independent, that doesn't mean necessarily that they have to, not work forever. It's not permanently retired, but it means that, like, an unexpected transmission blowing out is not going to throw a wrench in the program. They just write a check. A furnace going out is not going to throw a wrench in the program. They're not looking to, add it onto a line of credit or something like this, and somebody needs it, a couple hundred extra bucks. Like, that's what you start to look at when you look at that. And so when I say how you have to develop a why this, what's so important about that is that these things can only be cultivated from within, right? It's whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. And so that's, one of the isms from Think and Grow Rich from all those years ago. And ultimately they Jim Rohn had a really famous line that he said, if you happen to get $1 million, you best become a millionaire so that you have the chance to keep it. And he said, because you give somebody who's not a millionaire in their mind $1 million, it'll go away. But you give somebody who is a millionaire in their mind a blank slate, and they will create $1 million. So where am I really going with this? One of the things that will keep you going in those droughts, in the times in the business where it is not clear, where it feels like every aspect of your life is pulling at you, where it feels like the people that you thought you were going to be able to grow with, the people that you thought you were going to do something great with, maybe don't have that same level of commitment, where you're going through rocky roads and bumps and bruises and challenges with the company, for example, or maybe any number of different things that can and probably will happen while you're doing this. It's like, if you're somebody who's very motivated, what's the thing that keeps you doing this, rather than saying, what, I can go over here and make a living and put food on my plate, and maybe that's good enough or whatever. Because what I've noticed is that I've known tons and tons of people in the business over the last 15 years. I have people that I started with, I have people that I came up with, I have people that I've met along the way. And I've met so many people that have lost their belief, that have faced doubt, that have faced hardship, that have gotten distracted, that have had to deal with stuff in their personal lives, and did not necessarily generate the outcome that they wanted in the business. But then there's a select few group of people who, no matter what happened, they never took their eye off the prize. They stayed diligent. Now, this doesn't mean that they're full time. Okay, this just means that they have full attention towards this for the last 15 years. And I will tell you this: nobody, if you take people that are having success, nobody out there right now is winning bigger than my friends that stayed the course in this business model. It's like, because what happens is that it's a multiplier. It's not addition. The rest of the world, there's a great saying. It says, if you want to have a phenomenal life, you have to observe the masses and do the opposite. So what are the masses doing? The masses basically are doing three things. The first thing that the masses are doing is they're trying to make a living, which is great. We'll have to do that. But then what they do is they basically find as high of a paying job as they can, and they work as many hours as they can. And then they get this amount of income from that. And then they fill in their life to the size of what that income is. And then if they're lucky, maybe they're on an upward career trajectory, right, where their business is going to grow. But most businesses, most career paths and most businesses, they grow linearly, which means that if you talk to somebody, you say, hey, can you expect a 50% raise this year? It's very, very unlikely. You know, it's common to maybe get a 3% raise, or maybe if you're in a very aggressive company, you get a 5% raise or something like that. Or, you know, maybe you're in a vocation or in a career path where, you know, the top people earn, for example, you know, somebody in this position that has 10 years of seniority in a company on a track that I'm on might earn $110,000 annually. And the problem with that is that it's all based out of this model, which is just enough to keep you. Just enough to keep you. The whole world operates off of this model of just enough to keep you, because it's just enough to make a living. It's just enough to have a couple nice things that you have fun with. It's just enough to have your attention, but it's not quite enough to set you free. It's not quite enough to put you in a position where you could take 6 months off and decide what you want to do next. It's not quite enough to, you know, if you have a run-in with a boss or something like that, you can say, you know what, I'm going to redirect and I'm going to take about 10 days and figure things out. It's the golden handcuffs. And so if we want to have a different outcome, we have to have a different formula. It's funny that I'm wearing this shirt. It says formula on it, but you have to have a different formula. And so the question that I've asked myself so many times over the years, because I promise you, I have had levels of frustration and I've had levels of heartbreak in this business that it has been severe at times. But it's like, I asked myself the question of, if I'm committed to this idea that I can get to this result, what else can get me there, really? And I'm like, if we go down that road and we say, okay, well, what does this actually provide if you do it big and you do it right? You know, what makes it so different? And here's what I'll say is that, so early this year, there was a really, really famous distributor. He had a very long career in his entire company. And he was, you know, about to fly out to Southern California in his private plane that he captains, and he went and he took off and he got 1,500 feet off the runway and crashed into the runway and died. It was tragic. It was terrible. But his company, the organization that he spent the last 3 decades building, is continuing to pay his family month after month after month after month, well into the 7 digits. There's another, you know, prolific leader that's in the industry right now who's our age, and she's made waves. She's created a massive organization, and unexpectedly, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer just recently. And because of this, it was like, you know what? All of her attention needed to go towards that. And it's like, yes, she was able to write the $250,000 checks out of pocket to seek the treatment that she wanted, you know, to go meet with the people that she wanted to see. Yes, she was able to direct her attention and take weeks and months off to do that. And guess what's happened to her income? Absolutely nothing. Those checks hit every single Friday, every single 15th. Because what happens here is that you're building an asset that can pay you. And on top of that, if you want to look one level further of you know, why it's observe the masses and do the opposite. Let's say that you have a dream in your life to travel, for example, or let's say that you have a dream in your life to do fun things. Like maybe you're a toy oriented person. You want the RVs and the motorsports and the boats and all, you know, whatever it is. Maybe it's the second home, maybe it's the RV. The way that most people do it is they basically do that first model that I talked about, where they get just far enough and far enough and far enough and far enough, and then figure out if they can fit the payments for whatever the thing is that they want into what's left in the budget. And now they're doing the thing, except for they can only do it on weekends sometimes. And then they're so tired from running the rest of their life, right, that it's like they kind of shoehorn it in, and everything's it's again out of that model of just enough. So it's like, well, what if you got to the point where there's a great thing that says if you have to finance the toys, it might not be time to play. But it's like, what if you could actually, the reason that people finance the toys and the reason that people, you know, do play is because you realize that there's no way out of the other path. There's no end in sight. It's like most people aren't even going to be able to retire at 65. And that's if they've even been doing a good job. Like 15% isn't going to cut it, you know? And so what happens then is that you have to start to negotiate with yourself, and you have to negotiate with yourself about this idea of balance, you know, and like, well, you can't work your whole life, you know, and you got to like work hard, play hard, and all these different things. And it's like, what if there was a vehicle that if you just got focused, it's like maybe it took 9 years, right? Maybe it took 3 years. I've seen people do it in 9 months. I've seen people do it in 9 years, right? A really, really good friend of mine has worked his business part-time for the last 14 years. He's a professional in the medical space. And I just watched him part-time in his leverage distribution business earn $93,000 in 12 weeks. Still part-time. He's still working his full-time medical profession, right? Like that doesn't happen in traditional business. That doesn't happen in, normal career paths, but it happens here because you have a business and a model that's built off of two really, really important metrics. One is residual, recurring subscriptions, recurring products, recurring product consumption. And the second part is off of scale. You have multiplication. You have a business that multiplies by 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 by 3. So it's like, what if you had those desires that you have, and instead of having to fit those desires into the mold the way that everybody else does it, you say, dude, let's just write a check for the RV, and then let's go travel around the country. And if we're going to go, me and my wife, we're going to go and we're going to take our second honeymoon, and like kids are empty nesters, we're off to school, and we're going to go drive around in the RV for 4 months. Imagine not having to have the nest egg put aside for what that's going to cost, because you have a check that's going to hit every single 15th of the month because you built this up. And now the last piece of the puzzle is that realizing most people work their whole lives so that they can retire out of their business. How many people are like, God, I got to get 7 more years in so that I can get my pension. So I just got to keep focused so I can get 7 more years so I can retire, right? I mean, that's everybody. I got friends in Hawaii. I got friends in Layton that's what they talk about, okay? And it's like, what if the idea was to have something that you could retire into, right? You built this big thing up. You got family and friends everywhere that are, I say business family, right? Sometimes our family doesn't want to do the business with us, but it's like, you got people everywhere on every continent that are excited to see you, that have a passion and a vision for helping people live a bigger life, for helping people feel better in their body. They've, achieved top level like fitness. They're financially independent. And you can go do the things that you want to do. And while you do the things that you want to do, you go and you see all these people and you grow the thing. And so now your income continues to have the ability to just keep going up. It's like, what if we just took the entire paradigm of how most people are going to live their life and we said, you know what? We're just not going to do it like that. That is how you build a really durable why. So now you have your why, which is like the things that personally are important to you, the things in your family that you want to do, the things you want to do for your kids, for your spouse, for your parents, for your community. And then you have a why this. And it's those two things together that then when you look at it and say, 5, like, do I have to be done in 5 years, bro? Like, it's just going to be getting fun then. It's like, can we do it for the next 50? And it's like, let's go out and not only create a life that every single one of us can wake up to and be so excited and happy and at peace with, but be the beacon of that for everybody else. And it's like, when we click away at that same beat all together, which we are and which we will, 6, which we have 6 or 7 right now with us on this call, but 6 can turn into 60, can turn into 600, can turn into 6,000, can turn into 60,000, like faster than you can say lickety split. And so that hopefully this helps build the philosophy. If there's one thing that I want to get in, and I'm finished with this, is that you look at all these different people that won really big, and it's like if you watch them and you learn from them, like you can definitely point fingers and say, well, they were there at the right place at the right time. Maybe it was luck. And, oh, well, that person has the gift of gab. I mean, I'm sure everybody says that about Kevin. Like, it's like, oh, that person has charisma. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, people have told me that. I'm like, dude, I'm so scared to talk to people every day when I leave my house, but I do it. Like but the people that win big, the reason that they did is because they have a winning philosophy that they've built in their head. And the thing that's super interesting is that when you look at all of those winning philosophies, the winning philosophies are really similar. The personalities are really different, but the philosophies are really similar. And so if you're listening to this call and you haven't listened to all the last 30 weeks of this, EMFQ channel, if you go listen to all those different things, what we're building here is our own winning philosophy, and a winning philosophy that you can adopt, and a winning philosophy that our future teams and future continents can adopt, so that we can actually create change. And that's super exciting to me. So anyway, I hope that's valuable.